Hey! In this video, I'm going to share with you how I got into the video game industry as a writer, and well, how you can too. Tip number 1 starts with why. For me, my reason for wanting to get into writing in video games, or my why, revealed itself years ago. The dream to be a writer for video games, but not just any writer. A lead, to craft stories that people just won't shut up about. Also to just escape into my own head. Of course, all this while getting paid for it and not just in exposure. So what really propelled me in pursuit of this dream? What inspired me? Well, it was primarily one person at the beginning at least, and that was Drew Karpyshyn. He's the lead writer for some of my favorite games, like Knights of the Old Republic, but I also found out that he wrote, novels as well. He was one of the writers of a lot of the Star Wars books, and the Darth Bane trilogy was one of my favorites within that universe. To be able to write for video games and write novels, that is the dream. So the first thing is narrowing in on your why. And take a moment to think about who inspires you, whose work excites you, and why does it excite you. Those are the things that are really going to give you some foundations and starting points to just, get started. Tip number 2, actually create a portfolio. A lot of young writers, as in not youth writers, but writers trying to break into the industry, just don't or think they can skirt past this. Video game companies only care about your portfolio. They couldn't give a shit about your academic education, your accolades, or how much student debt you acquired to get those. But Seth, what did you do when you didn't have an actual video game writing portfolio? Well, I made my first break armed with nothing but short stories, some chapter excerpts, and character profiles that I made for a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I found a project on Upwork and ended up working on some plot lines and character profiles for a game called Spellstrike. So maybe you won't be able to wow a huge studio right off the bat with your work, but you could get in with an indie studio. So use what you've got, polish it up, and just send it. You can also spend an afternoon writing something short to fill in any gaps in your portfolio. For example, later on I actually wrote some mock scripts for games to add to my portfolio so it looked a bit more like I knew what I was doing. Tip number 3, meet people. Don't discourage yourself for taking baby steps at first. I first got into the game dev community through a Facebook group, and I've slowly expanded that since then. So now I'm in a few different groups, and I'm actually also an organizer for a local Women in Games group. Social media groups are going to be a very easy means of entry. Look at both national and local groups, and then scrounge their pinned posts for networking resources and ask for recommendations for where else you can get connected to other people in the industry or with similar interests. Follow those hashtags. From what I can see, Twitter remains the most active sphere for game dev and writing communities, with hashtags such as #GameDev, #IndieDev, #writing community, and it goes on and on. There's a lot of regular events with hashtags as well, such as #Screenshot Saturday and Indie Dev Hour, stuff like that. TikTok is definitely a creator's paradise, and I would not ignore it for writing and game dev purposes, just because it seems to tailor much more heavily towards visual arts and musical arts. TikTok also, in my opinion, has better discoverability than something like Twitter. And one key important thing to remember is do not lurk forever. Starting out lurking is fine. Don't do it forever. You need to interact. Next up, we have writers groups, and these can be either in person or online. Check out NaNoWriMo, check out meet up, or even just start your own group. Another great way to meet people is through game jams. And bonus, you don't just get to meet people, you get to polish your craft at the same time. Now, I'm not gonna lie, because game jams are often focused on programmers and visual art. Writers tend to get the short end of the stick. However, there are opportunities there. There are different flavors of game jams. For instance, at my university, we had 48 hours to produce a game, and we did a point-and-click mystery visual novel mystery game with multiple endings, and I still got to write stuff for a game jam game with like actual full story plot. Next up on the list are conventions. And I don't just mean video game conventions. You don't have to be so specific. Look at anime conventions, comic cons, all of that good stuff. Because a lot of the people who are attending one go and attend the other. Let me tell you a story. It was comic convention. Not the actual name. I donned my Sith Lord inspired robe, powered up my lightsaber, and harnessed the Force to mentally prepare myself for the mission ahead. And that mission? Networking. I attended every panel on writing. I was that person. And I ended up noticing an attendee who was also going to all the same panels as me because great minds think alike. So this led to having someone to stand in line with and chat for that half an hour of waiting for the next panel to open up. Yeah, we did drift out of touch afterwards, I'll admit that, but that interaction was still meaningful, especially when attending a convention solo. I went solo to a convention, and so can you. You can do it. But the story doesn't end there. Okay, I'm not done. Right? One panelist actually noticed a pattern in my behavior and called me out on it. Not joking. Then they mentioned an upcoming smaller convention and bribed everyone to attend it by offering to edit one full page of their work, their writing. And obviously I took them up on that, and that led to a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, movie nights, Halloween parties, and essentially my little bubble in that writing sphere just... Yeah, that means it grows. Don't be discouraged about, oh, if I only meet one person. Okay, don't. No, that's not like you meet one person and they introduce you to 5 more people and blah, 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 blah. It keeps going. And on that note, friends of friends. Don't be afraid to reach out to someone you've met through someone. One friend I met through the aforementioned panelists' movie nights actually ended up introducing me to this local game dev community that I had no idea existed. That led to me being introduced to musicians, composers, designers, and other writers, a whole bunch of people who otherwise I never would have met. Tip number 4, be flexible in your job searching. I hadn't touched Reddit until I actually stumbled upon the Game Devs Classified subreddit. And then I decided to finally bite the bullet and risk getting sucked into a whole nother sphere of the internet. But I'm glad I did, because I found a project and got in on it. So I ended up joining a small indie team to work on a project called Soul Centra. I started as an editor, but that then evolved into writing and QA and playtesting, and even creating some promo materials and presenting our demo at a local game dev showcase by myself. That is a lot of experience for a new writer to be able to just like pick up, put on their back, take out into the field for the next position. Now, do have your expectations in check, because small studios can have little or no funding, and a lot of the projects posted on the Game Devs Classifieds subreddit are indeed these small projects. So often you will see an offering for rev share or revenue share. Make sure you know what that means. Make sure you're comfortable with that. Some people are, some people aren't, and that's okay, but you need to know what you're getting into. You also need to understand the risk that's involved with these small projects. Judge whether it's worth joining. Sure, it might get your foot in the door, but does your foot get bit off when it goes through that door? What exactly is the door? How is that door going to help you? Is going through that door preventing you from going through a different door that might actually better fit your needs and what you're looking for? If you're finding these tips helpful so far, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, because that will help me keep working on these videos for you. Tip number 5, make something. Anything is better than nothing. Remember that a hobby does not equal a second job. Just contributing an hour a week into a project that you're passionate about is going to culminate into something you can be quite proud of and show off. Scale the type of game you want to create into a tiny level or even just a single scene. Focus on the writing and the narrative design rather than getting stuck in the weeds of programming and art, that kind of stuff. I know it can be hard to just ignore all that fun Unity lights and bells and whistles and pixel art fireworks, but trust me, just focus on the writing part if that's what this project is supposed to spearhead for you. RPG fan? Look into RPG Maker, MV, or Game Maker Studio. Into visual novels? Then Renpi or Renpai? Not sure how to pronounce it actually, would be the way you want to go. If branching narratives are your thing, then just look at Twine. I'm going to be putting the links to all of those in the description box below. Tip number 6, stay motivated, please. Yes, game dev jobs in programming, art, animation, audio, etc. There are way more of those than there are postings for writing positions. You know what's unrealistic? Expecting to land a job in a week, or to even get to an interview stage within a week. It might take months to find a good fit, but that's the nature of the game. Hopefully when it's a good fit, it's more than just a good fit, it's a great fit. But it is important to recognize that the stars do need to align. There is luck involved, and to not recognize that is to do yourself a disservice and to perhaps set up your expectations too high. However, keep in mind this is the case even for those established writers that you might admire. In fact, that writer who I said inspired me earlier, Drew Karpyshyn, same thing. Check this out. This is a quote from, I believe I jacked it off his website. As for breaking into games, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I was working on my master's in English at the University of Alberta, also in 2000, when I saw a small ad from BioWare in the English department newsletter. They were looking for writers. I had the contract for the Forgotten Realms novel under my belt, and BioWare was famous for the Baldur's Gate series, which was set in the Forgotten Realms. It seemed like a natural fit. I started working in the spring of 2000 and everything just took off from there. So even if you don't have video game credits to your name, don't let that discourage you. You got this. For extra bursts of motivation, my favorites are the Ars Technica War Stories series on YouTube, and also the videos by that guy Glenn. Again, extra links in the description box. When I really want that convention feel, accompanying my motivation, then I check out the GDC talks. Those are fantastic. If you enjoyed this video and my tips, be sure to subscribe so that you can check out the next video I post, which is going to be on the realities of securing early funding as a small and new studio. If you're interested in game dev diaries, then please also subscribe, because those are also headed your way. And Twitch I am there. You can find me there if you want to have some casual chats over some games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you